What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. So we still have some stuff that's going to be going on in the next week or so, but before we get to that stuff, we received news that there was a pretty big earthquake that happened in Japan to kind of start the new year. The new year quite literally got off to a shaky start as a magnitude 7.3 preliminary, from what I've been hearing, earthquake hit Japan. So before we get to what I want to talk about, I want to say that my heart, thoughts, and prayers, and everyone's thoughts and prayers from Storms United are to the victims of this earthquake and to those who have been affected in Japan. And there was apparently another earthquake in LA to start the new year. So for those of you who are affected over there, my thoughts and prayers go out to you as well. So yeah, just remember to be safe, and in the case of an earthquake, get out of buildings. And stay away from power lines, because those are especially no joke. Because when the ground's moving and all that stuff, you're going to have a situation where you're going to potentially see some power lines down that could cause some serious problems and serious potential harm to those who are around them. So yeah, with that being said, and with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get ready to talk about the stuff that I wanted to go over with you guys today. So the stuff that I'm talking about is kind of the snowstorm stuff that we were looking at yesterday and the day before. We have some new model runs that are pretty interesting to take a look at, because it kind of gives us a kind of a balance in what we're potentially looking like, because as more data continues to come in, we're starting to get a bigger and better picture of what may be going on. In fact, during my live stream last night, I want to go ahead and show you guys this. The 12Z European last night. So this is absolutely crazy right here. This is what it was showing on January 10th at 6 a.m. right here Central Time. Basically, from Colorado all the way to Maine, we have areas getting over 2 feet of snow. Some areas in Kansas getting over 3 feet of snow, particularly in western Kansas, which is absolutely crazy for that part of the country right there. So to kind of kick it off on a bit of a rather high note for those of you who love snow, this is what the European was kind of spitting out last night. The European has since decreased a little bit, and this has been a bit of more of an outlier. However, based off of what I'm seeing right now, 2 snowstorms are still well in the picture at this current point in time, and one of them is going to be hitting the mid-Atlantic, and another one is going to be hitting around the Midwest, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, potentially Minnesota, Missouri, those areas right there. So we'll have to pay attention to all this as time continues to go on. But to kind of give you a taste of what we're potentially looking at, this is a pretty crazy system that we have. We actually have the first storm that really starts to cover much of New England and much of Pennsylvania, New York, around January 7th, January 8th. And then the second snowstorm hits 2 days later. So if that were to happen, that would definitely break some records right there. And depending on how low the pressure would go, that's particularly a strong cyclone right there. But that's what we had going on with the European model from last night. We're going to go ahead and show you what we got for today right here. This is the GEM GDPS right here, one of our long-tracked models right there. All 3 of these runs are still calling for a dual system to happen. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you what we're looking at. Starting on January 5th, we start seeing stuff starting to organize and develop in Colorado, New Mexico, the panhandle of Texas, bringing some snow over there. And then it kind of loses a lot of the snow, but it does end up starting to organize and develop near the Gulf Coast, potentially bringing a lot of severe weather over there. And the SPC has already highlighted potentially this stuff in their 4 to 8 day outlook right here. So we're going to go ahead and kind of give you a brief overview of right here. Medium range guidance shows good agreement that another upper level trough will amplify and strengthen on Sunday into Monday across the western states and the Southwest as the system ejects over the southern plains. In the advance of a low level of moisture should occur across parts of Texas and the lower Mississippi Valley as a surface low quickly deepens across these regions. There are still some timing differences in the progression of this threat and whether it will materialize or not. And this does look like it could be a potential severe weather threat based off of the fact that both the forecast instability and deep layer shear is suggesting such an environment. This area of interest will be closely monitored with increasing severe potential and a possible introduction of a 15% severe risk in that greater predictability. This is day 7, day 8. Potential too low, predictability too low. So they are highlighting it. The SPC is rather for it to really start off as more of a severe weather system. But then as time continues to go on, it really starts turning into this more ice system. Once it hits the Appalachian Mountains especially, it gets pretty crazy right here, across a lot of these areas right here. If I can figure out a way to get the ice accumulation, I'm not sure if this is it. Yeah, freezing rain accumulation is not available until we get to the short term. So that's kind of unfortunate right there. But either way, still very impressive stuff that's starting to really organize and develop as we continue to look into it. So like I said before, we're looking at stuff really starting to organize and develop, and it becomes more of an ice storm. Look at the freezing precipitation, especially in parts of Western Virginia over here, as it starts to transition to snow. And then from then on out, it looks like Washington, D.C. is going to get some freezing precipitation. Same with Philly, and parts of New York City will as well as it starts to move out. Now, what are we looking at for snow accumulation for that region? Let's go ahead and show you what we're looking at for a lot of these areas over here. Here's the snow accumulation. D.C. is kind of where that battleground starts, pretty much in the District of Columbia. Pretty much anywhere from 2 to 8 inches of snow, 2 to 10 inches of snow throughout the whole territory right there. And then Montgomery County, you start seeing a bit less of a gradient, anywhere from like 10 to 13 inches of snow. But in areas of northern Virginia, particularly Loudoun County, we're looking at areas of potentially 14 inches of snow. And Fairfax County's in that battleground, but western portions of it could see up to a foot of snow from this. That is if this model holds. We've been seeing fluctuations as more data continues to come in. There's even all the other models are kind of fluctuating away from each other. So we'll have to continue to take a look at it. Philadelphia is going to see about an inch of snow, but areas in the suburbs like Bucks County, Montgomery County, and Chester County especially could see potentially up to 6 inches of snow on the outer fringes of those counties right there. Scranton looks like it's going to get decimated by snow, about 23 inches of snow already forecasted for the Scranton, Willis, Berks area right there. So we'll have to pay attention to it as more data continues to come in. And then you have stuff really starting to ramp up in parts of New York. New York City proper doesn't get that much snow, but the suburbs and areas, especially around Boston, forecasting 17 inches of snow. So this is definitely a very crazy scenario, even after what we saw with that European system. And then from then on out, the storm on January 8th, January 9th really ramps up. And this is going to be more of a Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit, Cleveland threat than anything right here, as this thing really starts to plow into the Chicago area, the Milwaukee area, and then towards Detroit. Indianapolis could see some snow, but it looks like it's going to be just south of that line between the freezing line and the solid, well, not exactly that, but you guys get the idea, between the snow line and the rain line. So snow accumulation from this for parts of the Chicago area are pretty interesting. They're still relatively large. In fact, in parts of northwest Indiana, we're getting up to 10 inches of snow. And same with the Chicago suburbs, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Some isolated areas of 9 in a lot of these areas is definitely not out of the question at this current point in time. So definitely something to pay attention to as more data continues to come in. Now, this is just one model. We're also going to show you what we're looking at potentially with the European model. The European, at least for the Chicago area and DC as well as Philly, brings more snow to those areas, to those metropolitan areas. So we're going to start further to the east, since that's getting impacted first. And areas around D.C. could see anywhere from like 8 to 12 inches of snow, especially in D.C., where the gradient is further south towards the Delmarva area right there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Areas around Montgomery County, Baltimore County get up to a foot of snow, and that's pretty much consistent across much of Maryland right there, other than the eastern shore and parts of the Delmarva Peninsula. Philadelphia could see up to 10 inches of snow from this. So it's definitely one of those battlegrounds. This is where we were seeing with the GEM GDPS earlier, seeing a lot of snow around the Scranton area and all those areas right there. Here's the European right now. Boom. So less snow, but impacting more of the city areas. So definitely something to pay attention to as time continues to go on. And areas that we're looking at in the Chicago area are pretty interesting as well, as particularly Chicago, Milwaukee, all those areas. The areas around Chicago could see up to a foot of snow. Milwaukee, up to a foot of snow as well. And parts of northwest Indiana, 6 to 9 inches of snow. And parts of Detroit as well. While they're going to see like 4 to 6 inches of snow, areas in the upper peninsula and upper part of the lower peninsula could see up to 10 inches of snow from all of this. So this is definitely a potential threat that is going to be impacting not just these areas, but also a lot of the Midwest as well. In fact, we're seeing snowfall really impacting anywhere from Kansas to Missouri through Illinois. Springfield could definitely see a lot of snow from this. Same with St. Louis if it pushes far enough south. So we'll have to pay attention to it. And the last thing I want to show you, check out real quickly, is the GFS. And we're going to do a similar situation with what we were doing previously. The GFS really starts to show activity really ramp up. Although the snow happens to go, the system starts to go up a lot further to the north, bringing impacts to St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, Cleveland, Erie, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, into D.C., and potentially Philly, New York City, those areas right there. And then the second storm really ramps up and does bring some impacts to the Chicago area, but it pushes further south and brings some impacts to St. Louis, Indianapolis on the back end. So we will have to pay attention to that snowfall accumulation. So here's the total accumulation that we have as of right now. We're going to start with the Mid-Atlantic area since that's getting impacted first. From the first snowstorm that we were looking at before, this is what we're looking at. DC's in that gradient, so is Philly, although they're kind of in that battle. So basically the difference of 30 miles could depend on whether you get an inch of snow or a foot of snow. So it's kind of that gradient that we always like to take a look at, particularly for those of you who live in this region that are used to it. The second storm could bring on a few extra inches in that part of the region. So that's what we have going on in the east, in the Mid-Atlantic, in parts of the Midwest right here. The first batch of snow for a lot of these areas especially in Indianapolis, gets like 10 inches of snow if the GFS is the correct model. And then as the second wave comes in, it adds on another in St. Louis. We were looking at like 3 to 5 inches of snow before. That adds on another 6 inches on top of that at least. And then for the Chicago area beforehand, we were looking at 2.5 inches of snow, adds another 7 on top of that. And especially in northwest Indiana, where lake effect snow is potentially prudent, we could see up to 15 inches of snow with this. So these are all just some of the models that we're looking at. We're still going to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, but we wanted to give you these updates so that way you kind of have an understanding of what we're looking at. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first video of 2024, and with that being said, stay safe.